Hola guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about my favorite nonfiction reads of 2019. And like I did for my fiction reads, we're going to go through these in the order that I read them in throughout the year. So we're going to start by Educated by Tara Westover. You've probably heard about this one. It's literally everywhere. It has almost 500,000 ratings on Goodreads. My God. And it is about how our main character, our author, Tara Westover, was 17 the first time she stepped foot in a classroom. And it's a memoir of her life, how her parents were sort of survivalists in Idaho, and they were not allowed to go to the hospital, to go to doctors. They didn't have birth certificates. They couldn't go to school. He thought the government was after them, and he had some mental health issues that she didn't recognize until she was much older. But really, what all of that did was create this incredibly toxic environment for her, and it is about how she uses her anger and her determination to propel her to leave the situation, like a lot of her siblings actually were also able to do, and find education and completely turn her life around and become an incredibly successful academic and scholar and leave this very, very toxic environment. This is a story that is a book that's going to make you very, very angry, because Tara Westover herself is very angry, and the things that her family puts her through and does are incredibly just anger inducing. You have a mom who doesn't really protect her, but then also you think that she's battered, like she's in this situation where her husband is completely in control of her life, and so that she probably feels like she has no other choice. And then you have a brother who is just as physically and emotionally abusive, and it is an incredibly difficult read, so trigger warnings for a lot of different things, like domestic abuse and physical abuse and emotional abuse. And yeah, I mean, it's not an easy read by any means, but I needed to know how she got out, and I needed to know what she did with her life, and I'm so glad that I read it. I absolutely adored it. Then we have a graphic novel. It is March, book 1 by John Lewis, and co-writer Andrew Aiden and artist Nate Powell. And this is volume 1, where excuse me, where Congressman John Lewis, who unfortunately I just found out yesterday has been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Hopefully he's able to make it, to survive. So all the strength and power to him, because he's an amazing human being. Yeah, he's an American icon. So it is the beginnings of sort of him telling these kids who come to his office during the inauguration of President Barack Obama about his involvement in the civil rights movement. And I think the art style fit the story amazingly well, and I'm sure you guys have heard about this, so I just jump on the bandwagon and read it along with us. I can't wait to read volumes 2 and 3. Then we have Kitchen Confidential: Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly by Anthony Bourdain. I actually listened to this on audiobook with Lewis, and we really, really enjoyed it. It was narrated by Anthony Bourdain. Rest in peace. May he rest in peace. And he was just exactly like how he is in his TV shows. It was a delight. It was raw and honest and funny, and he did not give a single crap, and it was a delight. It was amazing. Learned a lot about kitchens, that's for sure. Then we have Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. This is another one that sort of took the world over, the book world. I had so many people coming to the bookstore requesting it, and this is Lisa Taddeo's sort of exploration of desire in women. And I will say that there is a downfall to this book, and that is the sort of claim that this is an exploration of desire as a whole in women, because it really isn't. It is an exploration of how desire manifests and how relationships and sexual relationships manifest in the lives of 3 different women, and with a particular partner or partners for 3 different women. So it's not overarching by any means, and I think it is unfair to claim that that is what it does. But the individual 3 stories of these women were fascinating to me. One was about a woman who's married to a man who does not want to touch her, has no desire to, and she begins an affair with an old high school classmate of hers because she has an incredible need to feel desired and wanted and needed, and wants to feel that close connection that her husband just kind of refuses to give her. And then we have another woman who is married to a man who enjoys watching her be with other individuals, but he likes to feel involved in the sort of picking who it's going to be and getting pictures and messages about it. So sort of like he's involved in the experience, though maybe not always there physically. And then our third woman, their names are Lena is the woman whose husband does not touch her. Sloane is the one whose husband enjoys picking out partners for her. And then Maggie, a 17-year-old high school student, is our last woman who begins a relationship with one of her high school teachers that he vehemently denies when she tries to tell other people about it. And they go to court and everything, and you can see news articles about that as well, and how the whole school sort of turned their back on her and didn't believe her at all or anything like that. And so it's talking about these instances in these women's lives, and I thought the writing was magnificent. Boy, can she freaking write. And I again, just like the curiosity, I guess, kept me coming back, and also just the immense amazing writing. I loved it, and I couldn't put it down, and I needed to know what was going to happen with these women. And it sort of leaves you a little bit abruptly, but I think it just, you know, it's what the book meant to do, and I think that's the way that it should be perceived, and sort of the expectations when you go into it. It is about these specific women and these specific instances in their lives and these specific partners, and just sharing with you those stories. And I thought they were amazingly interesting, and I was obsessed with finding out more. Then we have My Time Among the Whites, Notes from an Unfinished Education by Janine Capocruset. And this is a collection of essays where daughter of Cuban refugees, Janine Capocruset, talks about her life in academia. And she talks about being from Miami and being the daughter of Cuban refugees, and about white privilege, and the one that she is able to embody as a white passing Latina, and the one that she sees so much of in academia. And it felt like when you read something and thoughts that you have thought and thoughts that you've had in the past, someone is finally able to cohesively put them into words. That's what reading this felt like. It felt honest and real, and like I could relate, even though we don't share the same Latinx experience. There were so many things that she was able to capture that I've thought, or that like beginnings of thoughts that I've had that I couldn't conceptualize or that I couldn't iterate, and she just got it, and I freaking loved it. It's short, so you could probably read it pretty quickly. Yeah, read it. It's amazing. Then we have Becoming by Michelle Obama. I know, shame on me for waiting a whole last year to read it, but it was worth it. It was amazing. It felt honest and real, and like getting to know, more of someone that you sort of think you know so much about already. It felt heartfelt and charming, and I loved getting to know more about her as an individual and her view on so many public things that we saw during their, you know, their time in the White House. And I enjoyed it, and I appreciated that she took the time to do that. It felt honest and real again, and I really liked it. I loved it, actually. Then one of the hardest nonfiction books that I've read in a while, it was Just Mercy, A Story of Justice and Redemption by Bryan Stevenson. And this is a story about Bryan Stevenson, who was a young lawyer. He created what was called the Equal Justice Initiative, which was a practice dedicated to defending those most desperate in need, the poor, the wrongly condemned, and women and children trapped in the farthest reaches of our criminal justice system. And so this focuses a lot on people put on death row, and so children put on death row, wrongly convicted individuals put on death row, or people who were way over sentenced. And it's about his nonprofit and his work and his passion to have a system, a justice system that is just, that where the sentence meets as much as possible the actual crime, that it isn't swayed by racism or just any sort of inequality that may be present, because we obviously know that happens every single day. We know who it happens the most to, and so it's been his job to fight against that as much as he can. And so he specifically he focuses on a few major cases of his and a few major sort of successes that he had, but one main component of his memoir is, or the story is about one individual who is on death row, who has been wrongly convicted. And this is just one of those books really that's gonna, again, be very anger inducing, but it's a necessary read, and you see in it so many of the things that you read about if you've read The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, which is, I think, books that maybe you should read together, or if you've read one, then I would recommend the other. It was so powerful, and you see how much Bryan Stevenson cares and the good that he's just trying to so desperately do, and every obstacle that he comes across that is just so unfair, but he keeps trying and he keeps working at it, and it's beautifully written. It feels like he's just opening his heart out to you and telling you desperately the things that he believes in and the things that are wrong with our justice system, and that he will continue to fight with as much as he can to fix. And you cannot help but admire him so much, and I loved it. I'm glad that I finally got around to it. I looked at it every single time I was at the bookstore, and finally, thank you to Olive over at A Book Olive for choosing it to be a BookTube common read. I decided to finally read it, and boy, I'm just so glad that I did. So those are my favorite nonfiction reads of the year. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought, or what some of your favorite nonfiction reads of the year have been. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you guys very much.